All right, greetings. Welcome back to Blackburn News, where everything is connected. What is going on, people? Good to see you. I wasn't as late today as I was yesterday. But the YouTube thing is getting cranked up. It takes YouTube a little while to get going, or at least the viewers to jump in because, I don't know, whatever. It's YouTube. People on Rockfin, hello. How are you? Got William Moy, Poppy Davis, Judy Truitt. We are live on Callin, Rockfin, and YouTube. Poppy Davis says, mowing here is causing fires, small ones. All yards are brown. Anyway, we're in a medium to severe drought already despite record rains in April. Judy Truitt says, a UV of 10 again already. Right. Very high UV. Things are very dry. Some people are asking, well, why? Why does everything catch on fire when it gets hot? I don't know. Do you think maybe perhaps, things like mowing or other daily activities could spark some kind of fire? There are all kinds of reasons that things could spark a fire. And fires generally tend to happen more often when it's hot and it's dry. Whoa, that's not that's not a physical fact, fact of how things work, right? That isn't the truth of how the world works, right? We're just going to disassociate that. It's hot and it's dry. Why are all these fires starting? I sense something underhanded. Okay, maybe. Or maybe it's hot and it's dry, and that's when fires start. Did you ever think of that one? I don't know. Well, let's look at this, though. This is interesting. So, okay. One part of me yesterday was like, all right, I'm going to quit talking crap about people who insist on the denialism thing. And then, but then I was just besieged by an onslaught of tweets and ridiculousness, mostly on Twitter, mostly tweets, ridiculousness around, just this, the obviousness of the narrative shaping by the denialist people. And then that this is way more coordinated than I feel like, yes, I think some people are just, pardon the term, useful idiots. Like some people people are repeaters, right? And they run around in a particular circle, right? They just repeat everything they hear because somebody said this, and now, of course, I agree with everything else they say, so this must be true too, which is not a logical way to operate in the world, right? Anyways, we know this. Anyways, I saw this and I was like, this is very interesting. Leo Hickman posts this. It says the Dark Money Climate Skeptic Lobby Group, GWPF, now masquerading as Net Zero Watch, which is supported by a tiny cabal of Tory MPs, such as Steve Baker, has just deleted a tweet. I wonder why they deleted it. Fascinating insight into their mindset. Their tweet was Blaze near Children's Park in Ipswich being treated as suspected arson. Ask yourself, who would have an interest in setting fire to nature to hype up the heat wave? And this is, one of the tropes, I guess, being put out there when you bring up all these wildfires being caused by climate change. Well, no, they're just people running around setting fires. Do you know that? Some of them might be arson, sure. either accidentally or, right? A big fire in California was caused by faulty wiring, PG&E. They had to pay billions of dollars in fines for their faulty wiring. But the thing to remember is if the conditions are there to make these fires much, much worse, right? On some levels, it doesn't really matter whether it's arson or not. Sure, if you think that people are running around setting fires deliberately to make it seem like these heat waves are so bad, I get it. Give me 1 second before I take your call. But this just seems to be like a narrative that's out there that, people are running around setting fires. Oh, okay. Fires happen when it's hot. You know that. Fires happen when it's hot and it's dry. You know that. The conditions are there to, allow these fires to spark and to spread very quickly, That's what happens. So, could some of them be arson? Possibly, but they're not. You can't just immediately say. You can't go out and say it's a bunch of people running around setting fires. If you don't have the proof of it, then it's just a claim with no proof. But if you say stuff like that, people run around in particular circles and repeat it. Oh yeah, that's what's happening. Okay. And this is the power of propaganda, right? Because if you put an idea out there, people will repeat it. Uncritically, will just run with it. Oh, that's what I heard it from. It happens. That's why CNN is so powerful, right? That's why the mainstream media is so powerful, because people trust what they say. They think everything they say is the truth. So they repeat everything they hear on TV as if it's the truth. Oh, I heard it on TV. It must be the truth. Right. The same concept applies to all media and alt media, right? Alt media. You think you're going to alternative media to get the truth. We know already there are so many instances of alternative media being fronts for actually mainstream propaganda ideas, right? So, this is already proven out, right? You have the TYTs, you have the Sam Cedars, right, on the left. And on the right, too, you have the same kind of things going on the right. You have people, that are willing to push particular narratives that are helpful, beneficial to the powers that be, right? To the people they want to please, the people in control, right? And they're helpful. They're helpful to the mainstream narrative. Anyways, but this is interesting that this guy picked this out. And why would they delete it? And it's also interesting, Net Zero Watch. Let's go look at the page for a hot second. This is an interesting thing that's happening right now in the climate denialism realm. So their page says, a campaign to highlight the serious economic and societal implications of expensive and poorly considered climate and energy policies. That actually sounds pretty good to me, right? Like, to me, I want to know about poorly considered climate and energy policies, because that's what we're going to get in the face of climate change. We're going to get poorly conceived, answers to the problem. Of course we are. But as with other, this seems to be a new little niche, right? Where it's like, well, we're calling out the bad players who are giving you the bad answers on climate, but what it ends up doing is suggesting that climate change is hyped. It's all hype and it's not real, right? That's the fallout. It's like the Cory Morningstar thing, right? It's like she calls herself an environmentalist, but everybody that I know that takes Cory Morningstar seriously as a journalist, right? What I hear repeated all the time about Cory Morningstar and her work is that, I don't think climate change is all that bad. I don't think climate change is a thing. So if you're an environmentalist and people are coming away from your work thinking climate change isn't really that big of a thing, or it's not that big of a deal, or it's not actually a thing, then you're not really an environmentalist, are you? Right? If you were a anti-pipeline activist, right? And you're working against pipelines because they're obviously bad for the environment and bad for people and bad, they're bad for a lot of things. You're an anti-pipeline activist, but you're saying, well, there seems to be some infiltrators in the pipeline activist community. But if your work, produces the result that people walk away from your work going, I don't think pipelines are all that bad. Well, then you're not an anti-pipeline activist, right? You're not actually indicating the problem of the pipelines to people, right? You could probably say, well, yeah, there's some people infiltrating the groups and whatever. Sure, that's a fine thing to go into. But if the thing that people take away from your work is that pipelines, they're not so bad, then you're not an activist against pipelines. And you're not an environmentalist if people are going away from your work going, oh, I don't think climate change is all that bad. You're not an environmentalist. I don't think I think we're okay. Okay. Or maybe, whatever. Maybe she doesn't understand that her messaging is screwed up, but I just actually don't. Some part of me feels like that is intentional. And the intentionality is, well, okay, so if all the solutions to climate are bad, or all climate activists are paid off or are bad actors, then that means that climate change isn't really a thing, right? And so that's not actually the thing you want to, it's a very, actually, quite elaborate thought process to get people, right? So we're exposing these bad actors who want to give you the bad, and that's true. It's true. The bad actors want to give you the bad solutions. I mean, the real solutions to climate change are going to be things that people really don't want to accept anyways. We know that. The actual solutions to climate change. So most any action against climate change is going to cause people to go, I don't think I like that. It's gonna ruffle feathers. So it's very easy to go, well, these climate policies are bad. And therefore, yeah, but are you highlighting the fact that actually there's an issue that we need to address, which is called climate change, or which is called environmental destruction, which is called sixth mass extinction, which is called the end of normalcy, a normal habitable planet for everyone involved. That's the thing that you should be actually raising awareness around. Right? These climate policies are bad, but the issue is that we're destroying the planet. That's the issue, is that we're destroying the planet. And the answers are ... right? The real answers are this, But there is this niche kind of, what I don't know what you want to call it, alt media, truth community. Well, we're pointing out that these answers are bad. I want to tell you the reason why Planet of the Humans was censored by the left, which the right or the particular community doesn't actually, they didn't actually really cover Planet of the Humans, which of course they didn't. But Planet of the Humans was censored by the left because they actually pointed out the real issues that, okay, the green agenda is not what it's supposed to be, and the problem is climate change is really bad, and overpopulation, not so good for the planet, like we're not talking, right? So they exposed a lot of things, and also that it was very popular, and it was on a large level, right? And they don't want that message getting out there. So the left censored this message from Michael Moore, and that was very interesting. Very, very interesting. That was censored. And the other thing that's very interesting to me is that you could say that some climate activists are getting like soft censorship on social media. But what I notice is that climate denialism, there ain't no censorship. Like nobody's getting censored. Climate denialists are out there like just strutting down the street full force. And Twitter has nothing. Twitter's not like, we don't like that. And that I don't want any censorship. Not saying that I support censorship. Not in any way. I don't support censorship of any on any level. I don't support censorship. What I'm saying is, they allow the climate denialism to go unfettered. Just right. Why? Because it actually serves a purpose for the powers that be. climate denialism serves the purpose for they want people to be confused about climate change. Why? Because they want the system to go forward without any real brakes. They don't want the brakes put on, industrial civilization. Not really. Not really. And the reason why they can't really do anything about climate change, all they can do is tinker around the edges and twist the knobs and go, well, we're going to, like Biden's EO yesterday was like some knob twisting. We're going to give some money for some clean energy. And we're going to make sure people have air conditioners. Like that was his EO. Like it was so like it was a nothing. It was just such a nothing. There was nothing about it. There was nothing. It was just pushing money around and saying, like, we proclaim that we care about the climate. There was no declaration of a climate emergency. Nothing. It was nothing. Anyways. Let's go. I want to, sorry, I'm getting really, okay, North, I can take your call, but let's keep it, let's make it quick. Sorry. Okay, North, what you got?
I was just going to talk about people who claim that wildfires are lit by a rash of arsonists, and like that's what they did back with the Australian fires in 2020, saying there was like this mass tweeting of like 200 people deliberately start fires when like the majority of those people, I think only like 24 were said to have like deliberate, and even that was the deliberate people were like, there was like teenagers in that group, and it was like people who were like having bonfires for parties and stuff. But then outside of that 24, it was people who were just like not following wildfire restrictions, and they get bundled under this group of like deliberately lit, and it's like you said, it's just something to deflect from the fact that like, hey man, it's way hotter and drier than it's ever been for longer. Right. And that like, even if these people were doing these exact same activities that got them in trouble, not as nearly as many fires would have started with them doing the same activity. Right.
And in the fires, actually, the fire, right. Actually, a lot of times like, just sloppiness, right, causes a lot of fires, right? People are just not following guidelines or not very careful, right? So one of the biggest fires we had where I live was started by a homeless person camping in the woods, and that actually happens all the time. Mm-hmm. Homeless people wander up into the woods, and they're like, I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to start a fire, and I'm going to camp out, and they're like totally out of it, right? And they start fires all the time up here. I've seen like 3 fires started by the trail where I hike up by my house, and it's like, fires start all the time. The thing is if it's super dry and super hot, those fires are going to go out of control really quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Like the same thing where I live. There was video of a homeless person who just had mental issues, and somebody had caught him walking around with a stick on fire, like trying to set fire. And it's just like, yeah, those people exist, but like if it wasn't record dry heat, then it wouldn't be as big of a deal as it turns into.
Exactly.
And that's the issue.
And it's not anything like people are running around setting fires to make it seem like climate change is bad.
Yeah.
That's not what it is. Okay.
Yeah. So. And that's forgetting all the other issues that we're having right now, like historic droughts.
Right. Exactly.
And like massive other things that like can't be controlled by people.
Right. Exactly. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for the call, North. I'm going to try and I got to slog through a bunch of items before I end this video, but I appreciate you calling in. All right. So, let's see. I think you're still on, North. I don't know why your mic is still on. Hey, North.
Hey, let me try and leave the room.
Yeah, something happened there. It got a little, yeah, okay. All right, so someone else, I saw something else on Twitter, which is like hilarious. This guy, I think I've seen this person before, billed as missed.information. Anyways, he jumps on Twitter and he says, I'm a PhD, and I have a PhD in environmental science, something. and I've looked at all the graphs and the CMP, CLMP, or whatever data, and I the more I look at it, I got to tell you, it's wrong. So all these people are like, yeah, climate change is fake, right? I'm like, who are you? You have a PhD. What's your name? This guy is just an anonymous dude. And anyways, I said, who are you? What college, what degree? Who are you? Where's your data? Like, you just put this statement out that like, oh, I'm a PhD in environmental science. And the more I look at it, the more I see it's fake. All right, this guy is obviously, and in his bio it says scientist, environmentalist, fact enthusiast. Okay. So he's posing as an environmentalist, but this guy is I'm sorry to assume this, but I'm assuming this guy is a paid actor. This guy is a whatever you want to call him, bot, a shill. This guy is not a PhD. There's nothing, I went to his Mastodon site. I went to his what's it called, Substack. It's just an anonymous account. He's not a person. He doesn't give his name. There's no degree, he doesn't give his credentials. There's nothing there. And so I'm like, I was like, I call bullshit. You're a paid stooge. You're a paid stooge of Shell Oil or somebody, right? You can't say like, I'm a scientist and climate change is fake, right? Okay. So prove me wrong, right? Where's your data? Give me a link. Give me your credentials. Give me something. That's all, but that's all it takes, apparently, for people to repeat things that align with their already previously held beliefs, right? So I'm just saying, I'm sorry, alternative journalists, you guys are just as susceptible to this bullshit confirmation bias, right? You just repeat things that, align with your crowd, and without even thinking about it. Case in point, so this guy blocks me, right? So I'm like, who are you? Where's your data? Who are you? And he blocks me. So obviously this guy is not a real person. So, but this is very, I saw this and it's very, very interesting. This is from Gonzalo Lira, who I've followed his work on Ukraine, and, he's somebody that in the truth community or in the alternative journalist community, he's, people are like, Gonzalo Lira, good guy, great journalist. So Gonzalo says this 24-year-old football player suffered a heart attack because of ... climate change. And I'm like, all right, so there's a lot of these going around of young people dying of heart attacks. And I am suspicious of why so many young people are dying of heart attacks, right? Like, we all know why, right? I'm not even going to go into that in depth, but it seems like a lot of young people, perfectly healthy people, are dying of heart attacks. That is suspicious to me. Extremely suspicious. But the reason why he put climate change in here, there is no reason, right? They didn't say, I went and found this article that here's another thing that's really bothersome to me about Twitter, what people are doing on Twitter, and it actually makes me a little suspicious. There's a thing where people are starting to screenshot headlines and just post the screenshot of the headline instead of a link to the article. And maybe you might say, well, if I post a link, it'll get taken down, or it'll get, okay, I get that. But the thing is if you're just screenshotting a headline, you're just posting headlines, right? Which is like, that headlines are headlines. They're made to get a reaction. And when you actually read the article, you get more information about the story, right? And so you can kind of make up anything you want about the headline or tilt it in any way. I just find this particular practice on Twitter to be not good journalism and not good, for the people that are out there making commentary on Twitter, doing this kind of thing instead of putting a link. Here's a link to the article, right? That's called sourcing your information. But when you just screenshot a headline, that's weak sauce, especially if you're a journalist. That's weak sauce. It's weak sauce. And Gonzalo Lira is supposed to be his journalist. So I'm like, you didn't even read this article. I found the article and it said he died of coronary disease or whatever. Coronary disease. I'm like, how did climate change get in here? How did climate change get into the conversation? And I asked him that. I'm like, this is not journalism, bro. You can't just say like, ha ha, climate change. So he's just repeating this like alternative journalist, whatever you want to call it, like this talking point. Again, confirmation bias and bullshit journalism. I call bullshit on this, and I had to call bullshit on him. I was like, you didn't even read the article, bro. And you're trying to push out that it's 90 degrees or whatever. I mean, 90 degrees. That it's climate change. Sorry. I'm mixing up my things that I'm reading. Sorry. Let me not keep doing this. Oh, well, let me show you the article just so I can show you that I source the things that I'm talking about. Or try to. This is from the Gateway Pundit. Super right-wing, outlet. That's fine. Whatever. I don't care. I get my information from everywhere. Anyways, this young man who was an ex-football player had a medical episode. He died they said he died of natural causes. So, okay, I have my suspicions about why young people are dying all over the place. But they didn't even say, you couldn't even link this to climate change in any way, shape, or form. So I find that particular narrative shaping thing, oh, it's because of climate change. They're going to say it's because of climate change. No, they didn't say anything about heat, stress, heat stroke, climate change. It was a coronary embolism. I'm like, dude, so why are you saying this? It's just sloppy. Even if it's not intentional, it's just sloppy. And so, again, to the truth community or the community that calls itself or brands itself the truth community, you can't do stuff like this. You can't do stuff like this. You cannot do stuff like this. It's not journalism. It's not. It's inappropriate. Hold on. Hold on. He replied to me finally, but he tried to say it was a joke, and I won't explain a joke. It was a joke, and I won't explain a joke. Oh. Climate change, huh? I just told him he's a sloppy journalist, because he is. Don't be a sloppy journalist. Right, because this is a theme that is in the the quote unquote truth community. This is a theme that they keep pushing out. It's they're gonna they're trying to make climate change. Anyways, so he's he's just doing. He thinks he's being funny, but he's propagandizing on behalf of this particular narrative, and whatever. Just get your act together. Somebody else sends me this as if they're proving something to me. Okay, it's just funny. But the hacks are out, man. The hacks are out. I don't know who is controlled paid opposition, or who is just repeating things from controlled paid opposition, right? Let's see. Yeah, I do agree. Salt Laker's natural cause brought to you by Pfizer. I do agree with that. I do agree with that. I do agree with that. So this somebody sent me this. He's like this guy is trying to prove that this is why the lakes are disappearing, because the somebody is destroying the weather and making the rain go away. I'm like, where you're just showing a video of some clouds evaporating, and somehow that proves that somebody is doing something. Anyways, let's watch this.
Water vapor map up close, we can see that. But the reason I made a video today is because we had an excellent opportunity for rain in Arizona and California today, and we're seeing the leftovers right down here of a supercell that was targeted by a satellite laser transmitter or microwave transmitter. We could see.
How do you know that? He said it was targeted by a microwave transmitter. Okay, how do you know that? You can't make stuff like this and just go like, this is what happened. This supercell disappeared because of a microwave. How do you know that? Where's the proof that that's happening? This is just like, I don't know. You got to do better. You really got to do better. If you call yourself a journalist, or you're, uncovering something, or if you're trying to tell the truth about something, you really got to do better than this.
See that this supercell was completely destroyed, superheated, and it was evaporated.
It was
Right there.
It was superheated and then it was evaporated. But it's not hot. I was like, isn't it? So here's the funniest thing is I actually replied to this guy and I was like, it's not hot in Arizona or California? Is not already hot there? Is there's like a heat dome? It couldn't have, this supercell, the storm cell or whatever, couldn't have bumped up against a heat dome and evaporated all on its own. I'm like, this just happens, right? Salt Laker says everybody knows that they've drained the largest lakes in the West for the underground cities. Well, hey, and that's a possibility, sure. Again, I'd like to see some data and evidence, and then I would be like, I'd consider that. No theory is too wild for consideration. It's just that, does it have data and evidence behind it? That's the problem. The point is, does it have data and evidence behind it? All right. I think there's more, because it's just the stupid was out yesterday. The stupid was out. Hold on one second, guys, okay? Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Anyways, what do we have next? Okay, so this is making the rounds. Something that Slow News Day played yesterday, and so this actually sparked a conversation I had with Slow News Day of like last year, I think. Steve came on the channel and we talked about this, but I want to show the ridiculousness of this. People are like, oh, this guy, he gave up he gave up the goods on the climate change hoax on CNN. First of all, this guy wandered into the studio. They were going to interview him about, and then he just, they didn't know what he was going to say about climate change. Really? You actually believe that? I'm going to say, like, if you're a expert spotter of bullshit and you think that this guy wandered into the CNN studio and jumped on camera and just gave up the goods on climate change, like on CNN, all on accident and stuff, I'm going to tell you, you're not an expert spotter of bullshit, right? You're actually kind of dumb if you can't see this for what it is, right? Like, they knew what this guy was going to say. They brought him on specifically for him to say this message. Why? Because CNN is pro-war. CNN is pro-business. CNN is actually a right-wing outlet. At its core, it's a right-wing institution, right? They push right-wing ideas with a woke veneer, with a lefty woke veneer, right? But so if they need to uphold a narrative, they're not going to have somebody, right? They're not going to bring on Bernie Sanders supporters. They're not going to bring on Glenn Greenwald. They're not going to bring on Jimmy Dore. They're not going to bring on, right, like people who are telling the truth on CNN. Especially if it doesn't, if that truth goes against their narrative, they're not going to do that. So if you're pushing this out saying like, oh, he gave up the goods on CNN, you're a fucking moron. You are a fucking moron. If you're like, oh yeah, he told the truth.
He's the CEO of the Weather Channel now. I was the founder of the Weather Channel, not the co-founder.
And I'm glad you did, because I am addicted to the Weather Channel. I watch a lot of cable news.
Now, hold on just a minute. I'm not done. And CNN has taken a very strong position on global warming that it is a consensus. Well, there is no consensus in science. Science isn't a vote. Science is about facts. And if you get down to the hard, cold facts, there's no question about it. Climate change is not happening. There is no significant man-made global warming now. There hasn't been any in the past, and there's no reason to expect any in the future. There's a whole lot of baloney, and yes, it has become a big political point of the Democratic Party and part of their platform, and I regret it's become political instead of scientific.
Not only did they hold on, not only did they bring this guy on, but they have a chyron underneath him saying, "This guy says climate change is baloney." Listen, he says something else that is hilarious.
I got the conclusion about the topic right here. What I do wonder
I know
though is
we're
when
not,
you
because
see
you wouldn't allow it to happen on CNN. But I'm happy that I got on the air and got a chance to talk to your viewers. Hello, everybody. There is no global warming.
What I do wonder is when you see the government, when you see
Hello, everybody. There is no global warming. Yeah, this is like laughable.
NASA, when you see other institutions say that 97% of climate scientists agree, do you think they're making it up? What I don't understand is how you square
That's a manipulated
that.
figure.
So, I mean, what Brian Stelter just did there was like he gave him a leading question. You watch this and like people are actually taking this seriously. It's like the people that are calling out the bullshit all day long are actually showing this on their show, are actually retweeting this and like this is their, as if this is serious. He's all 97% of climate scientists agree. So you're telling me they're wrong? Come on, tell me they're wrong. Right? Like he's like, so you're going to say they're wrong? More, come on. God damn it. Oh my God. So if 97% of scientists think climate change is real, they found one of the 3%. I mean, and this guy's like, I didn't hear him actually say I'm a scientist. Him just starting the Weather Channel, does that actually make him a scientist? Or does that make him a businessman who started something called the Weather Channel? Huh? Where in here does he say he's a scientist? Did anybody hear that?
Let me explain it to you. The government puts out about $2.5 billion directly for climate research every year.
$2.5 million. Guys, an Austin Power moment. $2.5 million? Really? $2.5 million? We're going to buy off all those climate scientists with $2.5 million. I mean, Jesus Christ, how fucking big of a fucking moron are you? that you can watch this and go like, yeah, he totally said the truth on I mean, God damn it. Woo! All right. Anyways.
It only gives that money to scientists who will produce
$2.5 million.
support the global warming hypothesis of the Democrat Party as position. So they don't have any choice. If you're going to get the money, you got to support their position. Therefore, 97% of the scientific reports published support global warming. Why? Because those are the ones the government pays for, and that's where the money is. It's real simple, but that doesn't mean it's right. That doesn't.
Oh my God. So, I mean, this is, obviously, that Fox and CNN are not that different, right? It's just which side of the aisle you want to. But I mean, that is hilarious. The fact that people are showing this as like proof, it's fucking embarrassing. It's fucking embarrassing. If you're a person that's showing this and going like, hey, he gave up the goods, I don't know what to tell you. I already said what I said. You're a fucking moron. Oh, Jesus. Anyways, it just is going on and on this week. Yeah, and he's like, Russ Taylor, this old geezer is a shill, calling out other shills. I actually didn't hear anywhere in there where he said, I'm a scientist. I think he said, I started the Weather Channel. Again, that gives you authority on what? I don't know.
Doesn't make it true. That only makes it bought and paid for. The money goes in circles.
I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to try to refute you
Well,
on the
that's the
facts.
truth.
And-
Simply say that the
And Brian Stelter goes, I'm not a scientist. At the very end of it, I'm not a scientist. I don't know. So 97% of climate, scientists say that it's real. You say it's not. Then they're going to run an ad from Exxon. You dope. You dopey dopester. They're going to run an ad from Shell Oil right after this, after they brought the climate change denier guy out here. He told you the truth about climate change. Yeah, but, just repeat everything you hear. Just keep repeating everything you hear. Anyways. Okay, so I'm going to just, this is not, evidence that climate change is totally a hoax. We're going into an ice age, guys. This is actually good news. No, where did that go? Oh, I think the thing I was trying to find is gone. Okay, anyways. I guess I won't show that. More hot weather. Obviously, it's been real hot. And historic hot day in Sweden with up to 37.2 C. And so they set another record, heat record. Which is the new national all-time record. More on that, just quickly. Mount Everest, where all the glaciers have melted because, the Weather Channel guy told me it was all fake. So the Weather Channel guy told me it was fake, so I just believe that. Right? I just go with that. when I don't really want to actually do any real journalism or work on any level to figure out whether something is going on. If you can see Mount Everest, like most of the snow is melted on Mount Everest, a place that's supposed to be super cold all year round. Now lost, it's losing its glaciers. It's losing all of its snow. Exceptionally high temperature recorded on Mount Everest with a high of negative 1.4 C. Of course, it's supposed to be way colder than that. This is probably a world record at this altitude. Yeah. And there goes all the snow from Mount Everest. Because Russ Taylor says the weather is not the climate. True. But the climate is the weather. Right? Climate affects the weather, doesn't it? I don't know if you were being funny, but Salt Laker says Black Rock owns everything. That's true. That's true. It's true. Let's move on. Okay, so I think. All right, I'm going to leave YouTube. YouTube, it's been nice knowing you. I'm going to talk about some other things, so I'm going to continue the show on Rockfin. Again, remember the Cash App address you see on the screen is the best possible way to donate to this channel. If you want to support my work, I appreciate it. YouTube, I'll see you all tomorrow at the regular time of